BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Farming Today podcast. I'm Kaz Graham. In this episode, the tweeds inspired by Lake District valleys, woven with wool from the sheep that graze in them. And it's at the end of the road for funding for projects in our national parks and landscapes.
The benefit of FIPL to landowners and farmers is its flexibility. It allows people to explore options that aren't necessarily covered in the mainstream. And it's been seen as a very positive influence certainly within our area.
We'll have more on that a little later. First, though, all week we are talking about labour in the food supply chain, from the seasonal workforce who pick our fruit and veg to the fishermen out on trawlers in the North Sea. Recruiting farm workers has become more difficult in recent years. Brexit, an ageing demographic, and competition from other industries are all contributing to the problem. As a result, the Institute for Agriculture and Horticulture is offering advice and training to try and make the farming industry more attractive to new recruits. Bob Hockenhull reports.
Ben Wade is feeding some of his 740-strong dairy herd. The milk they produce on his farm near Lutterworth in Leicestershire is used to make Stilton cheese. In recent years, he expanded and needed to recruit more workers. It wasn't always easy.
4 or 5 years ago, when we built the new farm, we had to take more staff on. It was getting harder to find good, competent staff. So what we did is we've given our staff a lot more time off. We've gone to a very flexible rota. We found that now we've done that, we've got staff coming to us looking for a job. Our staff that we've got are happy to stay. No one's moved on in the last couple of years.
Do you think there's anything that the industry can do to make it a little bit easier to find workers?
Absolutely. I think farming in general has got to change. I think gone are the days where people want to work 12, 14-hour days and only have every other weekend off. Personally, for my staff, when we sat them down, I asked them, do you want more money or do you want more time off to spend with your family, be at home with your kids? And every single one of them said, I'd rather have more of a work-life balance. It's going to be a big problem if things don't change.
The Institute for Agriculture and Horticulture is trying to address recruitment problems. I asked the CEO, Stephen Jacob, what farmers themselves can do to help with retention and recruitment of employees.
It's about employee welfare, thinking about the conditions that you're bringing the staff into, so the welfare conditions that you've got on the farm, the way you present the farm business, but also how you invest in your staff as well, so what training you might give them. So I think there's a real job to actually approaching it like a business and looking after your staff, because they are the most important asset you have within your business.
You mentioned that you're now competing with other industries to get staff. I mean, does the farming industry pay enough to attract workers?
I think pay is one of the elements, but also it's about some of the opportunities we've got in the industry as well. We're really using some fantastic technology now. It's about presenting the opportunities that are available and looking not at pay in isolation, but as part of the whole package of working in a fantastic landscape. And today, there's nowhere I'd rather be than on a farm such as this one.
Go on.
Gary Sutton certainly agrees with that sentiment. He's a trainee farm worker here, having decided to leave his job as a kitchen and bathroom fitter.
It'll be 2 years in January that I've been here. Big learning curve, lots of things to learn, lots of things to take in. Yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying it, really enjoying it.
Do you think there's anything the industry could do to attract more employees and keep them as well?
Possibly start at a younger age, like try and get schools involved, get more activities on the farm with the kids, I think, because I've got 2 kids at home and they absolutely love coming up here. I mean, trying to keep them away during the calving was a task in itself because they obviously wanted to come and see all the little calves. I'd not really had any farm experience before this because the opportunity wasn't there.
That's dairy worker Gary Sutton. The government is buying more than 5 million doses of a vaccine to protect against bird flu spreading in humans. The H5N1 flu virus has killed millions of birds across the world over the last few years. And in the USA, it has been passed on to dairy cows and some people. Heather Simons has more.
Bird flu is obviously something we've covered a lot on this programme over the last 2 years. Farmers have lost whole flocks of chickens, turkeys and ducks, and wild bird populations have also been badly affected. Meanwhile, as you mentioned, the H5N1 virus has infected dairy cows on nearly 500 farms in the USA, and a number of humans, mainly farm workers, have also got it. So far, the people infected in the US have only had mild symptoms, things like conjunctivitis. But there have been a few people in Cambodia and Canada who've had more severe illness. At the moment, the government says there is no evidence of the virus being spread from human to human. But the concern is that it could evolve and change so that it could be spread between people and, in the worst-case scenario, cause a pandemic. These vaccines that the government is buying would only be used if the virus did start passing between humans. In the meantime, the UK Health Security Agency is running a surveillance programme to see whether people are catching the virus here in the UK. People who are exposed to infected birds, like poultry workers and people involved in culling birds on infected premises, are being tested. And of course, the Animal and Plant Health Agency is testing for the virus in wild and captive birds.
Heather, thank you for that update. Now, if you are a Farming Today listener, you might just recall a programme we made back in 2021 about an ambitious project to create a collection of different tweeds representing each of the major Lake District valleys. They'd be made from wool provided by sheep farmers in those valleys who'd be paid a premium, and it would not only produce some beautiful fabrics, but it would also raise the profile of wool as a valuable product in its own right, not just as a byproduct of meat. The project was a farm diversification for Maria Benjamin and her partner John, who farm in the Coniston Valley. And now, 3 years on, all of the tweeds have been completed. I joined farmers, spinners, weavers and others involved in the whole process, eyeing up the fabric at an official celebration last weekend.
It's beautiful because obviously it's been chosen to represent the bluebells, which a lot of people flock to Buttermere for.
And it's a real bluebell blue, isn't it?
Yeah.
As well. This fabric is one of the 13 completed tweeds that make up the Lake District Tweed collection. The wool is sourced from Cumbrian upland sheep farmers, many of whom are here today for the launch of the full collection.
I suppose it's almost got a floral shape to Rachel Willen and Alistair Watson from Craghouse Farm in Buttermere. Yeah, so we'll have Herdwicks and Kerry Hills and Clun Forest and some Clun, wasn't it?
Yeah, a couple of Clun.
In the Buttermere one.
What's it like having your wool in such a high value item? Is that quite a good thing for you?
It helps, doesn't it? It's nice to know, and because we have a holiday cottage, so what we're looking for is to put the tweed into the holiday cottage as well.
I think it's fantastic. It's absolutely wonderful.
I'm with Kevin Tyson, who farms in Borrowdale.
We farm on the outskirts of Keswick, running about 300 sheep, commercials, and we do rare breeds.
And how much of your wool comes to Maria to go into these Lake District tweeds?
60 to 70%.
Have you total clip, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a sizable amount then.
This is a collection of 13 valley tweeds and throws, where wool is collected from each valley and it's made into a specific tweed based on aspects of that valley.
Maria Benjamin is the woman behind this collection.
We worked with the Langston Lakes Guild of Spinners, Weavers and Dyers, so they're really quite individual, each of the tweeds, in what they represent.
You've got all 13 on display in front of us here. Beautiful range of colours, textures. How many farms are supplying wool to this project?
Over 20, I think it's 21 farms.
And is it more profitable for them to sell it to you, for it to be woven into a tweed like this, than it is to sell it to the wool board?
Yeah, because the wool board, they're dealing with a global market. There's not so many buyers for British wool, so that keeps the price low. In the 1950s, farmers got the equivalent of £14 a kilo. And I can't pay that much, but I can pay more than the wool board can pay because I'm buying direct from the farmers. We still work with the wool board. They've been fantastic at supporting this project. But a lot of the cost is in the production, not really in the raw material. So it doesn't make that much difference for me to pay the farmers a bit more.
This project has been funded by DEFRA's FIPL, Farming in Protected Landscapes grant. That funding system is guaranteed up until March 2025, but there's not much word about it after that. How big a loss would it be?
I think it's such a terrible loss. I think it's a tragedy because it's a different sort of funding. It's not funding, say, for a piece of equipment for a farm. It's more like innovation funding. And that really creates a whole different atmosphere within farming. It gives people the opportunity to be really creative, think really specifically about what they want and what the farm could benefit from, rather than just taking a grant because it's available and it's not all that useful.
I'm Catherine McIntosh and my family farms in the Coniston Valley. We've got Hampshire Downs, mules and Jacob sheep.
And your fleece, your wool, has gone into the Coniston tweed.
That's right, yeah. So it's the orange and green one.
And the orange, that's meant to reflect the copper that has been mined out of the Coniston Fells.
It's brilliant to see the wool going somewhere rather than just being thrown away. It's not worth what it used to be worth, so it's really, really great that it's being used in something that then people can find practical in their homes, a little bit of warmth, a bit of comfort. Yeah, it's great.
That's Catherine McIntosh. Well, as we heard, that project was funded by money from government, provided through a scheme called Farming in Protected Landscapes, or FIPL, the future of which now seems uncertain. The deadline for applications for the original scheme is in March next year. And as that date approaches, people are worrying about what comes next. DEFRA have told us decisions on the future of the scheme have not yet been made, but says that there'll be an update in due course. I've been speaking to Christine Lennon, who's the Farming in Protected Landscapes Officer for the Lake District National Park Authority.
FIPL can fund projects for people, place, climate and nature, and we've got a huge range of projects under that. So a recent one is the Herdwick Sheep Breeders Association. We funded a gene bank for them because with new diseases coming in, they want security for that rare breed. We've funded nature recovery projects, permissive paths. We have done some barn repairs and historic building repairs. We have World Heritage status, and a lot of our barns were quite tumble down. You know, they're hundreds of years old. And the feasibility studies allowed us to identify both the architectural and the cultural value of some of these barns and what needed to happen to them. And then when the Historic Building Renovation Grant became available, we were able to jump in with our sort of oven-ready feasibility studies, and we secured, over 2.4 million project spend as well as running the project to make these things happen.
How many farmers and projects would you say have benefited from FIPL in the Lake District National Park?
We've had over 200 projects in the 4 years and project funding of about 5.3 million.
Some commentators have said that it's all got a bit quiet about FIPL for when it comes to 2025. I mean, do you know? Is it going to continue?
We don't know, but we do know the DEFRA team are working hard behind the scenes. They're quite a small team working on FIPL, and they're doing their best to provide evidence for the new government to justify why we should be spending this money. What they have done is they've funded the farming officers. I'm the project officer for FIPL, but they funded the farming officers who provide advice and guidance for a further 2 years from the end of March, which is when our current funding finishes.
How big a loss would FIPL be if that funding isn't continued?
I think an enormous loss, because the benefit of FIPL to landowners and farmers is its flexibility, and that it's anything from £1,000 to £250,000 for a single organisation has allowed people to do things quickly, and it's been seen as a very positive influence certainly within our area. The joy of FIPL is that it allows people to explore options that aren't necessarily covered in the mainstream. A lot of people have benefited from trying out sort of experimental projects and then building on them and having, we have had landscape projects, we have community interest companies, and we have small one-off nature recovery projects. As part of the benefit is the flexibility.
Christine Lennon from the Lake District National Park. And that's it from us for today. I'm Kaz Graham. The producer is Heather Simons. And Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.